Ready to make your 3D prints look like real metal for less than the cost of your favorite fast food combo? So I decided that it would be good to do a video that goes over all my processes for creating believable metal effects, 4 of them, using rattle can paints and some finishing techniques. Here I've prepped 3 armor pieces using standard methods including sanding, filler putty, wet sanding, second primer, and then black primer. The thigh plate on the left is finished with Rust-Oleum 2X flat black paint plus primer on the non-masked area and the right side masked region. The left mask side is using regular flat black primer. The pauldron is primered with Rust-Oleum flat black primer and will be metallized using Montana Can silver chrome. This chrome is really tough and won't peel when masked, so it's perfect for metal under paint. The unmasked areas on the left thigh plate will get painted with Rust-Oleum custom silver chrome. This is my go-to for achieving a realistic metal finish. But I only use it on things that won't require masking. So why am I using 2 different flat black primers, you ask? Well, because each one creates a slightly different effect when processed. I use the straight flat black primer to create the darkest version of what I call Black Beskar. And I use Rust-Oleum 2X flat black paint and primer for a slightly lighter version that sometimes yields a very subtle blue tint, similar to blued steel. Also, the metal effect really pops, as you will see. Here's some examples of the finished effect. The first one is flat black primer, polished using the method shown. The next one is polished flat black paint and primer. The difference is subtle, but the paint and primer piece is just a little brighter, like polished steel after buffing with graphite and steel wool. Now a look at what the Montana Can silver chrome looks like, as well as the Rust-Oleum custom silver chrome. The metallic effect of the cheekbone is Montana Can silver chrome using my process. Montana silver works great under paint and chipped areas really pop, even after applying a black wash. The best part is that you can mask it, and it won't peel up when you remove the masking. The cheek inset is straight Rust-Oleum silver chrome buffed with graphite, and no clear coat is used. Today I'll be painting the pauldron with the Montana Can silver chrome, since it will be painted and masked. This thigh plate, primered with the paint and primer flat black, will also be painted and masked, but will have a different look than the pauldron. The other thigh plate is going to be custom silver on the frame and center spar, and the insets are flat black and paint and primer flat black. Should be interesting, I think. The first step in this process is a gentle buffing with steel wool. You want to make sure it's got the 4 zeros, and that it's super fine grade steel wool. This step involves gently buffing the primered areas with the same pressure that you would use to pet a cat. This step imparts subtle micro scratches in the surface, so using a combo of circular passes and back and forth linear motions will create a believable surface. Keep buffing until the primer begins to become fairly reflective and very smooth. It is possible to burn edges, but ultimately that won't seriously impact the final finish. Just be careful not to burn through in the larger areas, as that may require touch-ups. Fortunately, it's just primer and very forgiving. The key here is creating as much smoothness as possible. This is a critical step regardless of which primer you use. The micro scratching will diffuse the clarity of reflections, so the more reflectivity you can see, the smoother the surface is becoming. Continue until the surfaces have a definitive metallic sheen. Yes, it will start to look metallic even at this early stage. That's when you know you are ready for the next step. This is what we are after. You can see that even though this is just flat black primer, I've buffed it out to a remarkable sheen and reflectivity. Now we are ready to really maximize both these qualities with the most basic of tools, everyday paper towels, preferably the cheaper ones. They are a bit rougher and just work better when it comes to polishing paint. I think they are somewhere equivalent to about 3000 grit sandpaper, but that's just a guess. The paper towel buffing process is the exact opposite of the steel wool, as it is a lot more aggressive and requires a good bit more elbow grease. Here I am buffing instead of polishing. I'm using a lot more pressure here. But these processes combined are 2 sides of the same coin and work together to create this amazing effect. We are looking for the buffing action to produce a near mirror finish with just slight diffusion, and the metallic effect should be much more pronounced. There's something magical about graphite. The type I'm using is available online and at craft stores like Michael's and Hobby Lobby. Paper towels and cheap brushes are good ways to apply it, but I prefer something called a beauty blender, commonly used for makeup applications as the name implies. Wearing gloves and a filter mask is recommended as graphite is very fine and easy to inhale if you are not extremely careful, and the gloves will keep fingerprints off the parts and graphite off your hands. Application's easy. Just wipe the graphite on with the applicator of your choice. You'll find that a little goes a long way. With the graphite applied, it's time to return to the paper towels. This time the action is similar, but pressure can be varied as needed. I think the graphite is acting like a polishing compound here, and I think some of it gets embedded in the paint, because once finished, there is almost zero graphite left on the surface. But truthfully, I really don't know why it works like it does, I just know it works and looks awesome. If any of you might know what's going on here, share it in the comments. I'd love to get your take on it. I'm sure some are wondering why I didn't just spray everything with gloss black. That's a fair question, and under ideal conditions, it's probably the best way to go. But dust, insects, and temperature variations can cause a coat of gloss paint to go south faster than sushi on a hot summer day. In addition to contaminants and a slow dry time, the surface often features an undesirable effect called orange peel. The only solution to fix it is to wet sand it to smooth it out, at which point the gloss is now flat. I find that flat black paint lays down great, dries really fast, and when buffed has a sheen instead of a gloss, which to me looks more like metal and less like candy.
Ooh, a piece of candy.
As always though, opinions vary. I like this approach because it's quick, cheap, and easy to fix, a winning combo in my book. Clear coat is not required and would actually be problematic when it comes time to do inevitable touch-ups down the road. For this thigh plate, we are holding off on the graphite for now. It will go on later after the custom silver chrome is applied. I'm also not applying graphite to the pauldron since it's getting shot with Montana silver chrome. With any paint, make sure you shake the can well before applying. A full minute is sufficient. This chrome shoots fairly fast, so keep your hand moving at all times, starting off the part and ending off the part. This way you will avoid getting drips and sags. Turn the part frequently to avoid overpainting and to help get total coverage. Once the part is covered, stop. This part will dry for about 10 to 15 minutes before applying the next coat. Next up is the Rust-Oleum Custom Silver Chrome. Again, shake well. This paint shoots a little softer. This first coat will be very light, like a mist pass. Move your hand quickly across the part, staying about 8 to 10 inches from the surface to avoid heavy buildup, as this paint has a tendency to crack if put down too heavy on the first pass. Make sure to cover all the surfaces evenly but lightly. It's okay to see a speckled finish over the black underneath at this point. Once you've hit every area, stop. We'll let this paint dry for about 10 to 15 minutes. Now for the second coat. Using even strokes, apply the Montana Silver Chrome just like first coat. Let it dry for about 30 minutes. I'm going to paint the thigh plate with a heavier coat this time. I'm still using fast strokes here to prevent drips and sags. I go over each area with several passes now looking to completely cover the part with silver chrome. Depending on temperature and humidity, this paint can take anywhere from a couple of hours to a couple of days to dry. Your patience will be rewarded. You can see that while the chrome on this pauldron isn't super reflective, it's not bad. This is totally due to the level of smoothness achieved in the primer polishing process. This is going to make the job of boosting the reflectivity and sheen much easier. Once again, the steel wool is used with a very light touch. This adds micro scratch detail and might make the paint more receptive to the graphite polishing that follows. I'm really not sure why this works so well, but sometimes I think the steel wool actually imparts something into the paint. Whatever it is doing, I really love the look. It should be noted though that this step is optional and is mostly done to help in the weathering process, as the micro scratches will catch dirt washes. Once the desired look is achieved, it's time to break out the graphite and paper towels again. Get some graphite on there and work it in with the beauty blender. Next, buff the surface with a paper towel, and that's really what it needs to be, not a microfiber towel or buffing cloth, just simple paper towel. Buff using good pressure, as the graphite is acting as a polishing compound and is fine enough to polish the micrometal pigment in the paint. Pressure and friction also help. The finished result speaks for itself. The reflectivity is significantly boosted. And though it's not a mirror finish, I can clearly see my reflection in the paint. The technique for the Rust-Oleum Custom Silver Chrome is slightly different. This time the graphite gets applied as the first step. Then, since this paint is even softer than the Montana Silver, I'm going to use the steel wool in combination with the graphite powder first, very, very lightly, and not spending too much time with it before moving on to the paper towel. Again, the buffing action is vigorous, and good pressure should be used. This finish really pops and is actually quite durable. This is a case where the more you buff, the better the overall effect. The best part is that if over time the finish dulls a bit, a rebuff will bring back the shine and reflectivity quickly and easily. The same cannot be said for a clear-coated part. If you compare it with the graphite over primer thigh plate, the difference is subtle but obvious once you see it. The polished silver chrome is just a tad brighter, and for me is the standard for a bare metal look, but for just primer, graphite, and a little effort, the left plate looks incredible. Now I'm going to remove the masking to reveal the areas that are primed with the two different black primers. This will further illustrate the differences in the look that each technique creates. The primer gets processed as before. Polish with steel wool, buff with paper towel. You could stop right here and just leave the polished black primer alone, and that would actually look really good. But to complete this process, apply graphite and buff the heck out of it. The result, in my opinion, is stunning, with the recessed areas of the plate showing just slightly darker than the frame. And there you have it. Look at that shine. If I didn't know better, I would call that metal.
But what do you think? Let me know in the comments. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you learned something that can improve your making process. As always, like, subscribe if you haven't, and share the video with others that might find it useful. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.